Hello. Before we begin this video, special thanks to Cameron Hall for helping me with this story and writing it himself. He did a fantastic job with this. A massive help to me. For those of you that don't know, I'm getting ready to move to London, United Kingdom, so I'm in a bit of a transition phase right now. So special thanks to Cameron Hall. He's a massive help on the Pente Patrol team. Anyways, enjoy the video. Welcome back to the Space Gold. Look at this with PPSW, your favorite hangout place, and today we're back with another Star Wars story. Today we'll be taking a deep dive into what would have happened had Captain Rex of the 501st decided to remove his inhibitor chip after his friend Fives died. What could have changed if Rex took it upon himself to get rid of his inhibitor chip? Before we begin this video, smash that like button, let's shine and shoot for 2,000 likes in the first 24 hours, and our release, what if Obi-Wan survived the Death Star? This is a video you definitely don't want to miss. We're also getting 50,000 subscribers, so join the Space Gold if you want to be part of our incredible journey here together. If you have ideas for videos, let them down below. I read off comments, but I don't do crossovers. And one last thing, if you want to support the channel, check out the Patreon, Twitch, and community Discord. Special shout out to George Shore, Benjamin Wells, Gort, Chancellor Lauren Sanders for being Grand Tier supporters, and Jay Hoffman, Icy Raptor, and WordPremium 308 as Master Tier supporters on our Patreon. You guys are helping fund massive projects that should be coming out in the late parts of this month or the early parts of the next month. And if you want to learn how to win a free Sideshow collectible, watch the end of the video and I will tell you how. Our story begins in Coruscant's underworld, in level 1325. Fives, who has just been shot by Commander Fox, lays dying in Rex's arms. Five utters the last words.
It's bigger than any of us. Anything I could have imagined. The mission. The nightmares. They're finally over.
Fives breathes out his final breath, and then dies. Rex, laying him on the ground as the Coruscant guard, stands around him as they all remove their helmets simultaneously. Over the course of the coming days, Rex would mourn the loss of not just a brother, but one of his closest friends in the entire Grand Army of the Republic. While Anakin is called to Scipio to take custody of Senator Padme Amidala from the Muns, who have just accused her of espionage, Rex finds himself needing to find console in a friend, Commander Cody. The two of them share a bond, one nearly as deep as Anakin and Obi-Wan, and since they were both stationed back on Coruscant for this short period of time, Rex would seek out his good friend. Rex meets with Cody in his private quarters on Anakin's Venator-class flagship and catches him up on the incident with Fives. He tells Cody that the inhibitor chips just don't make sense, and that he fears that they could be used in a larger scheme to kill the Jedi, other leaders, or even their clone brothers. He asks Cody to keep this conversation between the two of them, and while Cody is hesitant about this, he does agree. Rex, after explaining the situation, pauses. He opens his mouth to say something, but then he stops and turns away. Cody is very confused and asks,
Rex, what is it?
Rex would turn around and say,
I need one more favor from you, brother. Remove my inhibitor chip.
Cody would put a hand on Rex's shoulder just to agree, although he tells Rex that he wouldn't remove his own in fear of being hunted or even killed like Fives was. In the medical bay of the Venator-class Star Destroyer, Rex would lay down on the operating table, unconscious, as Cody types into the computer. He instructs the medical droid to do a Phase 5 atomic-level bearing scan. The medical droid begins scanning Rex's head, and the inhibitor chip is detected almost immediately. Cody instructs the droid to remove it, before then heading outside the door and standing guard. Several hours later, Rex awakens on the table. The healing patch is still attached to his head. Alarms sound around him as he looks across the room. Cody is nowhere to be found, but the inhibitor chip is placed on the medical tray next to him, encased in glass. Rex slowly sits up and holds the chip in his hand. He thinks back to Fives and how Commander Fox gunned him down so mercilessly. Rex throws the chip on the floor, shattering the glass into pieces and leaving the gooey, bloody piece of flesh membrane on the floor. Rex jumps off the table and puts on his helmet, concealing the healing patch, and moves to open the door. The alarms continue to sound as Rex opens the door and walks out into the hallway. As he exits the medical bay, Rex pulls aside a clone trooper of the 501st as he asks,
What's going on here? Where are we headed? The droid armies have occupied Scipio. We're gonna help them support General Skywalker, sir. Thank you, trooper.
The clone would run to his station, preparing for the invasion. Rex continues down the hall where he encounters a medical droid that operated on him. He asks the droid to get rid of the biohazard that was in the medical bay floor, as he continued going on to be commander or captain of his legion, to be the leader. The droid beeps in confirmation before skittering away back to the medical bay to clean up the mess that Rex made. As he arrives in the command bridge, Rex receives a personal transmission from Commander Cody, and so he answers it. Cody had his helmet off in a loud bar. It looked like 79s.
So, I assume the procedure went as planned? Sorry, I couldn't stay longer, but I heard you guys were heading to Scipio. Good luck with that.
Over the next coming days on Scipio, Rex waited patiently. He saw what happened to Fives after having his chip removed, and believed that he may as well go mad in the same amount of time. Yet, as hours passed and then days turned to a week, Rex found himself back on Coruscant. The invasion of Scipio was a breeze for the 501st, just like just about anything else, and Rex never once had a lapse in sanity or in judgment. He felt free, even more free than he had ever felt in his entire life. Within a week of being stationed back on Coruscant, Anakin is called to accompany Obi-Wan Kenobi to Obadiah to investigate the death of the late Jedi Master Sifo Dyas. While his general's away, Rex delves into the lower levels of Coruscant, finding himself at 79's, the clone bar. As Rex walks in, he smiled. It had been a few years since he'd actually been in 79's, with his consistent rate of deployment, with the 501st taking so much up of his time. Rex approached the bar and orders a drink. He looks around the room. Somehow, to Rex, the room being full of people with his own face is oddly comforting. He spots Commander Wolf and a few of his men from the 104th. The bartender returns to Rex with his drink and thanks the man. Rex walks over to Wolf and starts talking to him.
Wolf, you son of a panther. It's been too long.
The two of them were smiling and very happy to see each other with a firm handshake.
Rex, I'm surprised to see you in these parts. From what I heard, the 501st is always on the move. Well, sometimes General Skywalker has to do his own missions. You know him.
Wolf laughed and he introduces him to the other men of the 104th. Over the next few hours, Wolf, Rex, and some of the other clones share drinks and battle stories, the stories getting more drunkenly dramatic as the night goes on. At one point, Rex recalls the invasion of Scipio, telling the man that he single-handedly beat 20 clankers in hand-to-hand combat. By the last call, Rex and Wolf are the only two clones left in the bar, which has now been overtaken by cleaning droids. They finish their final drinks as they exit the establishment, arms around each other laughing.
Wolf, this has been great. I needed this. Something been on your mind? Rex, what is it? Do you remember that incident with Fives? The inhibitor chips and Commander Fox? Yeah, what about? Where are you going with this, Rex? A few weeks back, I had mine removed. I expected to go insane like Fives did, but no. I'm more free. I can think more clearly now than ever before. Makes me wonder if Fives was right. Is there something bigger than us orchestrating some master plot?
Wolf would put his hand on Rex's shoulder and would sigh, shaking his head.
Brother, you know I trust you more than anyone else in the galaxy. That decision could put you in danger. Real danger. From our own.
The air taxi would take them back to the clone barracks, and Rex would get out of the taxi not looking back, while Wolf would sit in thought for a moment. Then he thinks back to a mission with Plo Koon and the Malevolence. He reminisces about how Plo Koon saved their lives and cared about him and his brothers.
Rex, wait! Didn't your report detail that Fives expressed concern that these inhibited chips could force us to kill our Jedi generals?
Rex nods in confusion, and Wolf stands in thought for a moment, then runs back to the taxi. He enters it and waves Rex, and then asks him to join. Rex follows, and the air taxi departs yet again, back into the lower levels of the city. Hours later, the sun has risen over Coruscant, but the lower levels' artificial light remains the only source of illumination. Rex and Wolf emerge from a shady shop, Wolf having a healing patch on his head as well. In his hand, he holds his inhibitor chip encased in glass. Unlike Rex, Wolf pockets the chip, thinking he may have a reason to keep it later down the line. Rex is puzzled why Wolf was sure that this was a safe decision, or why it was safe to keep it down here, or even do this in the lower levels of Coruscant. And Wolf would say,
people down here don't care who you are or why you do what you do. They only care if you have credits. How did you know about this place? Well, with General Plo being such an important member of the council, we have some pretty extended stays here. I've learned my way around this place.
As the two hail another taxi, Rex receives a personal transmission from Obi-Wan Kenobi. He is needed on board of Anakin's flagship immediately. The two Jedi are on their way back from Obadiah, and they have been called to join the front lines on an Axis. Rex looks at Wolf, who smiles, and steps away from the taxi.
I'll take the next one. Have fun, brother.
Rex smiles, salutes, and both the clones part their ways. Over the next few months, the 501st, 212th, and 187th would all fight a prolonged engagement on Anaxis, losing time and time again to tactics of Admiral Trench. During this series of battles, Rex opens up to Cody and a few of his own men, Jesse and Sterling being two of them, about Wolf's decision to remove his chip, just like he removed his own. And he also noted that neither Wolf or himself had had any side effects or even gone even close to insanity. Jesse and Sterling are interested and even curious to learn more about getting their own chips removed, but of course Cody is still hesitant, fearing the consequences that would lie ahead if he decided to do so. As the Battle of Anaxis raged on, Jesse and Sterling became more insistent that they needed to get their chips removed as well, for the safety of General Skywalker and that of their clone brothers. Cody and Rex would find some downtime during strategy meetings to slip away to the medbay and have the chips removed from both of the men. As the battle came to its peak and Rex realized that Echo may still be alive in the custody of the Techno Union, General Skywalker, Rex, and Clone Force 99 are sent to Skako Minor to rescue their lost clone brother. During this time, Cody sneaks away to the medical wing of Kenobi's flagship, alone. Here, he sits in thought for hours, contemplating whether or not to go through with removing this inhibitor chip of his own. He eventually makes a decision to go through with the procedure, and after instructing the medical droid on to what to do, he goes under. For the next few months, the Clone Wars would rage on. Rex, Cody, and the 501st operate as they would otherwise, the 5 clones giving no evidence to show that they no longer had their inhibitor chips controlling them. This, up until the 501st is split up, with the now Commander Rex leading the 332nd into the siege of Mandalore. After the success of the siege and the capture of Darth Maul, Rex, Ahsoka, and the 332nd return to the Venator-class Star Destroyer with Maul as their prisoner. As they all relax and bask in their victory, Rex, Jesse, and Sterling reconnect with Ahsoka, asking about her time after the Order and if she missed the clones. Ahsoka would reassure them that she missed them greatly, but the Order not so much. As she says this, Rex receives a personal transmission from Chancellor Palpatine, who utters the words,
"Execute Order 66.
The 3 clones freeze, none of them understanding the meaning behind these words.
Commander. Sorry, Chancellor.
And Rex had to come up with a quick excuse as to why he didn't respond.
Our transmission is cutting out. Could you repeat that? Execute Order 66.
Rex gives a half-hearted
yes, sir,
and shuts the transmission off. Jesse and Sterling, being the other only 2 clones in the room, look at Rex confused as to their new orders. Rex thinks back to Fives once more, to the day he died, and the plot he talked about involving the destruction of the Jedi. Rex realizes that Fives even mentioned Palpatine being the mastermind behind the Clone Wars.
Fives was right. He was right. A plot to kill the Jedi. It's bigger than all of us. He was right.
Rex knew it, and he knew that the Jedi, it was all gone. Everything would be destroyed if they didn't do something now. A realization of look comes over Ahsoka's face as she looks at the 3 clones, who all realize at the same time what Rex is just suggesting. Ahsoka looks at Rex and asks him if this is all true, and then remembers what Maul had been telling her on Mandalore. Without a second of thought, Rex talks into his comlink, instructing the Venator's comlinks all shut down. All connections of communication going out of the ship were being shut down. When the clones question this order, Rex thinks on his feet, telling them that they can't risk their location or communication falling into hands of anyone that may want to free Maul. The clones follow the order with hesitation as the Venator goes off the grid while in hyperspace. Ahsoka, meanwhile, is in her own private quarters, attempting to establish communications with Anakin Skywalker. She thinks that he hadn't fallen to the dark side, especially because he would never do that. She may be able to still get in touch with him or even convince him to stay away from Sidious or even destroy the Sith Lord. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Cody receives the same personal transmission from Palpatine, calling for the execution of Order 66. Cody, also unsure of what this means, utters the words, "Yes, sir," before shutting off his comlink and going back to fighting the Separatist forces on Utapau. Kenobi, not being shot down by the clones just yet, is able to ride the Boga into the upper levels of the Pa City. However, within minutes, Order 66 command is flooded into clone communication channels. Every clone hears the phrase on endless repeat over their comms, "Execute Order 66." Immediately, the clones begin firing on Kenobi. At this point, though, he is too high up, and while he is nearly hit, he is able to make a swift escape into the city. Kenobi finds his way to Grievous's starship and jumps into the cockpit, taking off only moments after Order 66 was given. After he is off-world, he is able to get in contact with Bail Organa. Organa explains his fears regarding this, telling Obi-Wan that the smoke is billowing out of the Jedi Temple, and that he saw clone troopers there personally when he visited the temple. Clones of the Seven Sky Corps down on Utapau have taken Cody into custody. He is immediately found guilty of not following Order 66, and, as simple as that, he is executed by his own men. His body falls to the floor lifeless, but free of the pain of trying to kill one of his best friends. On Cato Nemodia, Wolf receives word that CT-57, one of his men, had followed the order of Order 66 and shot down Jedi General Plo Koon over Cato Nemodia's floating cities, killing him, at least that they thought. Wolf realizes that this is what Rex was talking about, and quickly abandons his post, taking up a starfighter and fleeing off-world. Back on Anakin's flagship, Ahsoka is meditating. She had been here for hours, trying to find a connection to Anakin through the Force. As Ahsoka nearly gives up her effort, she receives a mass transmission from the Jedi Temple. It is a coded message sent by Anakin Skywalker himself, instructing all surviving Jedi to return to the temple, because the war was over and it was safe for everyone to return. Coruscant was their safe house. Ahsoka smiles, thinking that Anakin had not fallen to the dark side, and assuming that everything was right and that Maul had lied. She rushes to tell Rex and the 332nd continue on their way to Coruscant. On Coruscant, Obi-Wan stands in front of the Jedi Temple, watching smoke and flames engulf the peaks. From a short distance, he can see clones of the 501st patrolling the area and searching for Jedi. Kenobi, while being one of the best wielders of a lightsaber that the Order had seen in generations, realizes that even he can't take on this many soldiers. He ducks down behind one of the pillars and makes his way closer and closer to the building that he once called home. Kenobi, after what feels like hours, is finally able to sneak his way into the temple. As he does so, he freezes. All he sees down every hallway is dead Jedi. Masters, knights, padawans, and even younglings, all dead. A tear trickles down his face as he sees some recognizable faces. He knows he has to move on, though. Obi-Wan makes his way through the temple, looking for any survivors, but finding none. After nearly an hour of searching the temple, he finds himself in the archives and hears something. He hears clones shouting,
"Hey, get this door open for me. Almost done, sir. Just a few more moments."
Kenobi rounds the corner to the library and sees some clones cutting open a door. After a few more moments, the door is forced open. Kenobi sees his chance before the clones can communicate their success to the rest of the 501st. Obi-Wan ignites his lightsaber and cuts through the 3 clones. Behind the door is a hallway leading into a large room. Kenobi walks through it and realizes that this room holds some of the most ancient writings of the Jedi. In the center of the room stands Master Tera Sinube, along with a dozen or so Jedi younglings and Padawans. Among these, Kenobi recognizes a few: a younger girl named Reva, a Wookiee named Gungi, and an Ithorian named Biff. He doesn't recognize the rest, but understands that Tera brought them to this place to hide and be safe from the temple. Kenobi, after a moment of shock, tells Master Sinube that they needed to get out of the temple and get off-world. He tells Sinube to take one of the transports inside of the Jedi Temple hangar bay and meet him and any other survivors on Polis Massa. Kenobi tells him to bring any of the wounded that he came across with them, explaining that there is a semi-extensive medical station on the asteroid. As Obi-Wan turns around to leave the group, some of the younglings ask him why he wasn't coming with them. And Obi-Wan made a subtle remark about needing a distraction to escape. He smiles as Tera and the young Jedi run off. Tera looks back and smiles, assuming that he may not ever see his old friend ever again, before running to lead the others to safety. Kenobi, on the other hand, rushes to the communications room, wanting to draw attention to himself. He takes a longer route through the temple to get there, running through clone troopers and being fairly loud. As he gets to the communication room, he shuts the door, slashing the mechanism through with his lightsaber. Inside of the room are 2 clones, both with blasters aimed at Obi-Wan. Kenobi uses the Force to take their weapons and offers them a chance to be calm and to survive. Both clones ignore this, rushing at Kenobi in an attempt to bring him down to the ground. Obi-Wan apologizes before he cuts down both of the clones and moves to the communication system. Once at the computer, Obi-Wan finds a message that was being sent out to the Jedi, and he overwrites it. He stands up tall as he delivers a speech, regretting to inform that both the Jedi Order and the Republic had fallen, and that the dark shadow of the Empire was rising to take their place. The message itself was a reminder to any surviving Jedi to trust in the Force, not to return to the Temple. Obi-Wan looks up to the ceiling, with only one mission in mind: buy Terra and the younglings some time. With this thought, he force pulls the ventilation cover over the shaft and jumps in. Over the next few hours, Obi-Wan would ambush clones inside of the temple, finding a way to cause just enough of a distraction to ensure that any other survivors would be able to make it out, before escaping himself and getting into contact with the Grand Master himself. Back on the Venator, Ahsoka returns to her room and meditates in the Force, looking for answers. Suddenly, her personal comms device sounds with an alert. When she opens it up, she hears a message, and that message is the one that Obi-Wan had just sent out. After hearing the last words from Obi-Wan cut out, the comms device clicks off. Ahsoka is distraught. She cannot believe what she had just heard. The same order that betrayed her was the same order that she left, and that same order was gone. She couldn't focus on it now. She needed to go find Rex. On the bridge of the Venator, Rex told of the fall of the Republic and immediately orders the Venator to be pulled out of hyperspace. As it is, the ship finds itself on the outskirts of Shili. Ahsoka looks out of the bridge window at her home world, a tear rolling down her cheek. It felt like it was so long since she had last seen her people. But, again, it was not her time to go down there. Rex calls Jesse to his side and informs him that the Republic has fallen. He needs him to keep the ship exactly where it is, and to inform him if anyone or anything appears on radar. Ahsoka, Jesse, and Rex move to the comm center, where they order all of the troopers out. They take control of all the computers and boot the comms back online, patching into all clone units across the galaxy. They hear orders to kill and find the Jedi generals and commanders. They hear of Master Yoda's escape from commanders in the 41st Elite, and the death of Depa Bilba from Commander Grey, and there was so much more pain and death. As Rex takes all of the information in, he can only do what he can with the results of Order 66. Ahsoka would attempt to get into contact with Obi-Wan Kenobi. As the transmissions fail to go through, she attempts to connect with Padme, who also fails to respond. She thinks through all the people who could help her, give her insight, or even just tell her where to go or what to do, before she finally thinks of the senator from Alderaan, Bail Organa. After a few failed comms attempts, Ahsoka finally gets into contact with Senator Bail Organa, who is in a speeder. Tears fall from her face as she smiles. Ahsoka is alive, and Bail is so relieved to find out that Yoda and Obi-Wan would also be ecstatic to find out. Ahsoka sighs her relief knowing that Yoda and Obi-Wan had survived, but asks where Obi-Wan is now. Bail responds, telling her that Obi-Wan had gone with Senator Amidala to Mustafar to confront Anakin. Ahsoka looks down. She can feel her tears bellowing in her eyes. She realizes that Anakin was the cause of all of this, the cause of the fall of the Republic and the death of so many Jedi. She thanks Organa for his message before shutting down the comms channel. She goes to Rex, who heard the entire transmission between Bail and Ahsoka, and turns towards her and puts his hand on her shoulder, telling her that they need to get to Mustafar, now. Ahsoka nods and tells him and Jesse to reroute the ship and command the bridge to go to Mustafar. She will stay at the comms in case of any transmissions come through. As the Venator pulls away from Shili into hyperspace, Rex informs the 332nd that they're going to Mustafar to support General Kenobi and Senator Amidala. While they aren't fully informed of Anakin's fall to Vader, they do understand that something is wrong, and that they may be the only hope to saving the Republic itself. As the Venator arrives into orbit above Mustafar, Rex and Ahsoka board a gunship. They descend down into the surface of the fiery world, escorted by two other gunships containing members of the 332nd. They land their ships on the landing bay platform of the metal mining complex, formerly controlled by the Techno-Union. As they begin to land, they see Padme's Naboo starskiff docked at the bay, with Padme herself unconscious on the platform not far from her ship. Ahsoka and Rex jump out of the gunship before it even touches down on the dock. They run to Padme. She is alive, but she is in need of immediate medical attention. Ahsoka tells Rex to get her on board of a gunship and get her to the medical bay on the Venator immediately. It should have the support to get her to the recovery that she needs to stay alive. Rex asks about her, and Ahsoka gives him that grin. He knows, and she knows as well, as she turns around running into the complex, her lightsabers in her hands. As Ahsoka enters the complex, she follows the scent of burnt flesh to a large room. In it, she finds all of the Separatist leaders, all dead, cut down with a lightsaber. She gasps at the horror, before seeing the remnants of a fight in the room. Lightsaber cuts and marks on lines on the computer's desks, walls, and tables. She runs to the room and out onto the outer balcony of the Bay complex. Ahsoka looks around, searching for a moment, before her eyes land on Obi-Wan and Anakin dueling on top of the repulsor field platforms as the arm fell below. She backs up a few steps, running and getting a head start as she leaps to the platform that they're both on. As she does this, Obi-Wan and Anakin freeze, both stunned to see her. Ahsoka lights her blades as she looks at her former master. She asks why Anakin was doing this, what he was doing this for. Anakin looks at her for a moment, telling her that the Jedi had failed him the same way that they failed her. A tear rolls down Ahsoka's face. She tells him that he doesn't have to do this. Anakin paces as Obi-Wan draws nearer to him. Anakin gives her the choice to join him or die. As Anakin says this, he reaches his hand out in front of him and faces it towards her. Ahsoka responds that she would never join him, not like this. She said that he wasn't the Anakin that she called his master. She herself didn't know who he was anymore. Anakin was dead and Vader was alive, and if she would not join him, then she as well would die. Anakin ran at Ahsoka. The three of them began to duel, with Anakin, now Vader, facing off against his former master and his former apprentice. The repulsor field platform creaks as lava and molten metal began crashing over it, raining down from the sky. The three of them retreat to the edge of the arm, where they dodge the crashing waves of lava and rain that fall down onto the metal. After a moment, the arm begins falling into the lava below, and Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Vader run up the arm, catching onto the ledges, avoiding a fiery death. As the arm floats down a molten river of lava towards a lava fall, Obi-Wan grasps onto a cable that hangs from the top of the arm. He swings out from the repulsor field arm and jumps onto another platform. Ahsoka follows suit, grasping onto one of the other dangling cables, swinging out towards where Obi-Wan landed. Vader, with a lightsaber in his hand, takes in his surroundings before jumping towards the two, slashing at them in midair, and landing onto a large piece of metal rubble that was hovering above the lava. While he is unable to harm Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, this move does knock Ahsoka's main lightsaber out of her hand into the lava below. She looks down at it falling before her, taking her Shoto blade off of her waist and igniting it as well. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka both leap onto other smaller chunks of hovering debris as they make their way towards Vader. The duel between the three continues, with Vader sandwiched between his master and apprentice. He deflects strikes from both of them and is able to knock Ahsoka back off balance. She nearly falls off the debris, but Obi-Wan uses the Force to pull her back up. Using this moment to his advantage, Vader strikes at Obi-Wan's outstretched arm, cutting off his hand. Obi-Wan screams in pain as Vader smirks, now knowing that Obi-Wan knows how he feels. Vader is cut off as he looks down at a blue blade shoved through his chest. In an instant, the blade retracts, and Ahsoka jumps over and catches Vader's limp body. As she jumps over to the lava bed nearby, she apologizes to her master. She holds Vader in her arms, and he screams that he hates both of them. Obi-Wan looks over at Vader as he lands next to the two of them. He is still clutching his arm, tears barely escaping his eyes, before evaporating into the scorching air. Obi-Wan cries out, apologizing to Anakin. Vader moves to speak, but his breath is his final, as his body falls limp in Ahsoka's arms. Ahsoka sets his body down and stands up. With the Force, she lifts the lifeless corpse of her master up and lays it on the surface of the molten river, saying that she was going to say goodbye. She says that as she releases Vader's body, watching it sink into the lava river. Ahsoka turns away and looks at Obi-Wan. He is wavering on the edge of consciousness, so Ahsoka picks him up, and with all of her might, the two of them make their way over to the complex, where they see Rex and a handful of other troopers standing near the gunships. Rex walks up to the two, telling that the Senator had been stabilized, and she's awake about to give birth. Ahsoka looks at Rex and then at Obi-Wan's half an arm, and she tells Rex to take Obi-Wan aboard and put him in the medical bay. Obi-Wan informs her that he has a rendezvous point with Yoda, Senator Organa, and some others at the facilities on the primary asteroid of Polis Massa. Ahsoka nods in understanding. Rex puts his arm around Obi-Wan and helps him to the gunship, and Ahsoka walks across the landing bay and towards and boards the Naboo starskiff. As she enters, she meets R2-D2 and C-3PO. She smiles, knowing that it had been a good long time since she had seen either of them. She sits as the pilot, and R2 beeps in response as C-3PO looks at Ahsoka. Ahsoka tells the two of them that Padme was taken aboard of the Venator, and now they were all going to go towards Polis Massa, as she turns on the engines and takes the ship off into the air. When Ahsoka arrives on Polis Massa, she is met by Wolf, Rex, and the troops of the 332nd. She looks concernedly from Wolf to Rex. Rex informs her that Wolf removed his inhibitor chip before the Battle of Anaxes. Rex gave Wolf the coordinates so that he could be safe, knowing that the Wolf Pack, if they found him, would try and kill him or just kill him without hesitation. After this somber moment, the two would escort Ahsoka from the landing bay into the medical bay in the facilities, where she would find Obi-Wan, already fitted with a mechanical prosthetic arm and hand. He waited outside of the medical bay doors, smiling. He stands up and motions for Ahsoka to enter. As they walk through the doors, they are met by dozens of younglings, Padawans, and knights. Ahsoka is stunned, barely able to utter out how they survived, asking how they would survive. Obi-Wan smiled, telling her that she would have to thank Master Sunube for that. After a moment, the smiles faded as she asked where Master Sunube was. Obi-Wan said that he was back at the temple looking for more survivors. Ahsoka sighed in relief. Kenobi gestured her to walk with him again. The two enter an operating room. In it is a medical droid, as well as Padme on the table, and Yoda and Bail standing outside next to her. Padme, who is fully conscious and aware, looks at Ahsoka and smiles. Ahsoka is the closest thing to a child of Anakin's, and the closest thing to a child that she had ever had, and Padme was beyond happy to have her in this moment with them. Within seconds of Ahsoka entering, Padme screams in pain as she continues to go into labor. Ahsoka looks at Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Organa and tells them that she can take care of Padme. The three leave the room, and minutes later, Padme gives birth to two children, a boy and a girl. Ahsoka is the first person other than Padme, of course, to hold Luke and Leia, which Padme finds quite fitting. If these children won't have a father figure in their lives, an older sister in Ahsoka would be the best next thing in line. After a moment, Ahsoka asks Padme if she needs anything, and Padme asks for Obi-Wan. Because Padme was given immediate medical attention on the Venator, and has the presence of Ahsoka with her giving birth, she gives birth healthily to the two children, and remains in stable condition. Ahsoka sees this and feels comfortable leaving the room. As Ahsoka walks out of the room, and she sees Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Bail, and Rex standing in a circle talking. She approaches the four of them and asks if everything is okay. Rex turns around to inform Ahsoka that they have discussed things, and that they decided to have the inhibitor chips removed from the entire 332nd. The medical wing on Polis Massa Station was equipped well enough to handle the procedures adequately, and it would only take a few days to get all of the troopers operated on and out of full recovery. Ahsoka agreed with the plan, taking it upon herself to inform the clones of the decision. Ahsoka would gather the 332nd outside of the station on the landing bay, where she would give the announcement that the Republic and the Jedi had fallen, but they still had a chance to make it right. She told them that by removing their inhibitor chips, they would become free to think and act as they choose, without the risk of being subject to programming. While most of the clones didn't understand or even agree with the decision, they understood the order. Over the next coming days, each and every clone in the 332nd Company would undergo the procedure and have their inhibitor chips removed. During this time, Bail Organa would make plans to take Padme and the children back to Alderaan to keep them safe. He also offered to take Maul, who was still being held as a prisoner inside of the Venator, to Alderaan to carbon freeze and secretly place him in a secure location. While Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka agree that Padme and the kids should be taken to Alderaan, they insist that Maul be kept with them, for the safety of Alderaan and for the safety of the galaxy as a whole. Bail reluctantly agreed with them, and shortly after, he took Padme, Luke, and Leia to Alderaan. In the same few days, Master Sunube would come back to Polis Massa twice, with transports full of injured or even fleeing Jedi, bringing the ranks of the Jedi from dozens up towards the number of 100. This little asteroid quickly became a safe haven for Jedi all across the galaxy. While the clones and surviving Jedi continue to be treated, the three Jedi wait in meditation, looking for answers, some way to restore balance to the galaxy. With them getting nowhere, they realize that this may be the end. That is until Rex runs in on them meditating. Rex tells him that he has a plan to figure out where Sidious is and confront him. Obi-Wan and Yoda tell Rex that Sidious is most likely in his residence on Coruscant, with more guards than any of them could handle. But Ahsoka stands still, asking what his plan was, because she was curious at least. Rex suggested that himself and Jesse use the comms on the Venator to contact Sidious and tell him that Ahsoka had cut off their communications. Sidious may see this as an opportunity to call the 332nd, a dispatch of the infamous 501st that Anakin/Vader commanded, to himself for protection or other orders. While the plan is a bit shaky, the three Jedi agree that it could work, and they send Rex and Jesse back to the Venator. On the Star Destroyer, Jesse and Rex patch in the communication through to Darth Sidious. After a moment, it is answered. Lord Sidious, Rex apologizes for not contacting him sooner, telling him that Ahsoka Tano had cut off their communications on the ship before she fled. Sidious stares them down, saying that it was very unfortunate. He then says that Ahsoka can wait, telling them to take the 332nd to Mustafar to help them locate Lord Vader and restore him to health. The transmission cuts off immediately without Rex being able to say anything in return, and the two clones look at one another. Back on Polis Massa, the 332nd Company has entirely recovered from their chip removal procedure, and they stand in formation waiting for the return of Jess and Rexy. As the two return on the surface in a gunship, Ahsoka, Yoda, and Obi-Wan meet them on the landing platform. Yoda informs the commander that he will be leaving to go into exile on Dagobah, but Rex stops the Jedi Master. He says that Sidious is on the coordinates of Mustafar. They are Mustafar looking for Vader, whatever that means. Ahsoka looks to Yoda and then to Obi-Wan. Yoda nods and agrees to accompany them to Mustafar for one last encounter with the Dark Lord of the Sith. Within hours, the Venator-class Star Destroyer arrives in orbit of Mustafar. All but a skeleton crew of the clones board the gunships, alongside Yoda, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan. The fleet of gunships descends into the surface of Mustafar and navigates its way to the coordinates given to them by Darth Sidious. When they arrive at the coordinates, Sidious is seen with a handful of droids and Coruscant guards. They are searching the lava banks looking for any sign of Vader. Sidious looks up at the incoming vessels and smirks, thinking that now they have an entire company of clones to help him locate Lord Vader. As they land and unload, Sidious's grin vanishes. He spots three Jedi jumping out of the nearest gunship alongside of Rex and Jesse. Sidious shouts at them to execute Order 66, and to do it now. The Coruscant guard turns around seeing the Jedi and begin firing at them. However, it is to no avail as the clone troopers from the 332nd fire back. The Coruscant guard stood no chance. Sidious, in a fit of anger, ignites both of his blood-red lightsabers and begins running through the clone ranks of the 332nd, cutting down dozens of clone troopers. The entire company of clones begins to fire on him as they see him do this. While his fit of rage gives him some momentary power to deflect bolts and tear through several more clone troopers, the sheer amount of blaster fire is even too much for him to handle. Sidious is cut down by clones falling to his knees, gasping for air. Ahsoka approaches Sidious, Shoto lightsaber in hand, and looks him down. She opens her mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. She ignites her blade and holds it to his neck, and he smiles at her, telling her to do it, to do what her master could not. A tear falls from Ahsoka's eye, evaporating as quickly as it formed, as she deactivates her blade. She turns around and walks away from the Dark Lord, as a single blaster shot rings out from behind her. Captain Rex has shot the former Chancellor of the Republic, delivering the killing blow, and ending the brief reign of the Galactic Empire. Weeks later, back on Coruscant, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan are escorted into the Senate building by members of the 332nd Company. Other clones from different battalions guard the building, and as they see two Jedi walking in, they act agitated and jumpy. Despite this, the 332nd Company assures that their brothers do not take action against the Jedi, allowing them safe passage through the building and into the scream-filled Senate chamber. As they enter, Repulsor Pod approaches them, with Captain Rex aboard it. The pod takes them to the center of the room, where they step into the Supreme Chancellor's podium, where Bail Organa already stood. Senator Organa calls for silence among the senators, and after a few more moments of screaming, the room falls quiet. Organa introduces Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Rex to plead their case before the Senate, and to tell of their encounter with Sidious. Though, after a thorough explanation and answering of many questions, Ahsoka pulls from her robes the lightsabers of Darth Sidious. She explains that he orchestrated the entire Clone Wars, and that he was the Sith Lord, the ancient dark enemy of the Jedi. Despite this, many senators continued speaking out against the Jedi, expressing their distaste for the ancient religions of the Force. With nowhere to turn, Bail Organa nods to Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan sends a signal to Jesse. Within minutes, Jesse and the other few clones enter the Senate chamber, followed by Maul, still imprisoned by the Mandalorian sarcophagus. Maul is brought via repulsor pod to the center of the enormous chamber, and he is let free from the Force prison, although he is still restrained. He gives his testimony that he was trained by Sheev Palpatine as a Sith assassin, that he would have been the apprentice, not Dooku nor Skywalker, and that Palpatine had been orchestrating the Clone Wars for decades. He gives his full explanation that ties Palpatine to both the Separatists and the Republic. He even explains that the origins of the clone armies were that Dooku convinced Jedi Master Sifo Dyas to contact the Kaminoans, and that the Kaminoans had been reporting to Dooku and Sidious ever since. Gasps would fill the Senate chambers, and all eyes would turn to the Kaminoan repulsor pod, as all of the senators watched the Kaminoan representatives run from their station and out into the Senate building. After this, a majority of the Senate agrees to revoke Order 66, and allow the Jedi to reclaim their status and temple on Coruscant. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, though, decline. They express that they intend to rebuild the Jedi Order in the ways of the ancient Jedi Order, the original Order of light side users. Master Terra Sanube, one of the oldest and wisest members of the Order, had already located the ancient Jedi homeworld of Ahch-To, and they were already planning on rebuilding there. The Senate allowed for this, giving the Jedi the freedom to return to their ancient ways. Ahsoka and Obi-Wan leave the Senate chamber and return to the temple, sending out a new beacon calling for all survivors of Jedi to return to Coruscant. This would see hundreds of Jedi who survived the Purge, including Jaka Sanu and Caleb Dume, return to the temple in droves. The Senate would dissolve the Galactic Empire and hold a new election for Supreme Chancellor, which Bail Organa would win, in a landslide victory. His first action in power would be to remove the inhibitor chips from the Grand Army of the Republic, and to free the clones, which was unanimously agreed upon. Some clone troopers would go into a normal lifestyle as possible, and took up such roles as Senate guards, mercenaries, and even security personnel. However, most clones would join the ranks as surviving Jedi, helping them rebuild the Order and serve as their guardians, should the Jedi ever need it. The Mandalorian and clone trainer Cal Skirata, as well as the former Separatist Dr. Athan, would use the following years to develop a cure for the rapid aging of the clones, allowing them to live normal, if not extended, length lives. With this, the two would agree to start an initiative, one to ensure the lineage of the Fett genome would be tracked, as to ensure healthy reproduction amongst the clones. The Jedi, meanwhile, have their rebuilt order under a new code, one that allows for passions and attachments, marriage, and families. Due to this, many Jedi fall in love and have kids of their own with one another, as well as with the clones. If only one could see the look on Kenwu's face. After a few generations, he sees a young man, nearly identical to Cody, training in the ways of the Force. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our story. Again, special thanks to George Story, Benjamin Wells, Jay Hoffman, Warpigman308, AC Raptor, Gort, and Chancellor Yolaren Sanders for supporting the channel. Let's hit the other links to this so we can see what if Obi-Wan survived the Death Star. If you want to see a what if, let me know down below. I read up the comments about Don't Do Crossovers. Check out the Twitch community, Discord, and Patreon if you want to be a part of our incredible community here and support me in other ways. And thank you especially to Cameron Hall for helping the story and writing it. Did a fantastic job with this. We're going to talk about the story in a quick second. If you want to learn how to win a Sideshow collectible, go down below, and this is what you have to do. You go down below, there's a doc pinned to the top of the comment list. You click on the doc and you put your name on the doc. It's really that quite simple. We need to hit 35,000 subscribers by the end of July. That is July 31st at 11:59 p.m. If we hit that, we will be giving away one of those, and the winner will be able to choose of one of the 5. Anyways, let's talk about our story here and now, because this was amazing. Did a beautiful job. I have to say, I like this story a lot more than my Cody inhibitor chip. That story was much darker and much more not that. And I think the story is much more optimistic, and it's a lot more fleshed out, and that I love it. Honestly, it was a great read, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. He has another story that he has written for upcoming that is absolutely beautiful. Again, just to stipulate on one thing that I said in the beginning of the video, I am moving to London in the next month and a half or so, so I'm a bit of a busy place in my life right now, so this is a great help to me. And also, as I start to build my team and new channels, which are going to be released and announced soon, I do need people helping me run all of my channels, and that includes this channel, but I only want the best for you guys, and this is definitely the best. So I really enjoyed the story. I think Cameron did a great job telling each of the characters and giving them their own personalities, and while there are voice lines that are supposed to be in it, there's lots of dialogue in it. I didn't include those because it's just time constraints, and you know, it's hard to get voice actors, so if you want to be a voice actor, you better hire. You better jump on in, right? Anyways, all jokes aside, The story is really beautiful. It really is. It covers all the emotion, and it covers really the tension of Order 66. It does a fantastic job of covering that emotion and that tension, because there's a lot of tension that surrounds Order 66. You can feel it during the final episode of the Clone Wars in Season 7. I think it was episode, what was it, 12 or something? Victory and Death. Or not even the episode before that, but you can really feel the tension right before everything goes down, and he does a great job of building that tension, especially with the extra months building up until Order 66 happens, letting you see that Commander Wolf doesn't have his chip, and that, you know, Cody doesn't have his chip, and all of these different clones are getting rid of their chips, but they're also not getting rid of their chips, right? There's that fear that's still behind them, and I really think that it's beautifully done to the aspect of which Ahsoka and Rex and Sterling and Jesse all get to be heroes on this story. Now, in my own version, I believe that they were all victims or something or another. It's one of the stories, I can't remember which one anymore, but one of them, they're all victims to the curse, you know, the bigger project, the project that is meant to destroy the Jedi and even them. And I think this one is a lot more emotionally sound and a lot more emotionally strong than my own, and I really enjoyed this read. I think Cameron did a great job. When we talk about Anakin and his death, I do believe that he would still die. I think Cameron's 100% right there. I don't think Anakin's surviving that encounter either, and it was nice having a nice change of scenario for Sidious. I talk about this every so often, and it's my struggles to have Sidious killed, and I think having the clones kill Sidious is actually really nice. Now, I know he's a Sith Lord, right? He's gonna kill tons of them. Again, we're talking about an entire company, though. We're talking about the entire 332nd Division, right? He's not surviving that. No one's surviving that. Not a single soul in the galaxy is surviving that, right? Not at all. No. He's a talented duelist, and I will give him that. He's a very talented duelist, and he's a very talented lightsaber, or Force user, sorry. But he's not surviving that. No one's surviving that. Not Kenobi, not Yoda, no one. Not even Anakin surviving that. And I think that's a very nice touch and a very nice ending to it, because it's always hard adding a new death for Sidious. That's something I struggle with a lot, and I think he did a great job with that. So, with that being said, I do hope you all enjoyed this video. If you do want to see more, smash that like button. Also, we got some epic videos coming out in the next coming weeks, and I am so excited for you guys to see them. The thumbnails I just made the other day, and they're so freaking cool, including some of the ones that weren't made by me. I'm telling you guys, we got huge things coming. Let's hit that 35,000 subscribers by the end of July. This is only going to get better for you guys, and that is all I want, is the best for all of you. Anyways, I love you all, spread the love, and always remember, my friends, may the Force be with you.